Hello dear friends, welcome back. We are here to discuss about the anatomy of human eye. So up to now we have covered the about 90% of the anatomy of the human eye. Now we are going to discuss about the blood supply of the eye, or we can say that the blood supply of the eye ball. So let me write here blood supply of eyeball. Right, my dear friends, as we know that our eye gets its blood supply from different arteries, right? So let's first of all name all those arteries, then we will go into a detail and diagrammatic representation of all those arteries and the blood supply of your eye. So the first artery, the major artery which gives off a branch towards the eye, that is your internal carotid artery. Internal carotid artery, and from this internal carotid artery a branch separates which is called the ophthalmic artery. Right, friends? And from the ophthalmic artery then certain other small branches separate, and those are called the first and the major and the important branch is called the central retinal artery, right? Then there are other small branches which are called the short posterior ciliary arteries, right? There are many, as I have discussed in previous lectures that we discussed which structures are responsible to pass through sclera. We have discussed them. And then there are long posterior ciliary arteries, and number 4 there are anterior ciliary arteries, right? So these are the arteries which supply oxygenated blood to the eyeball. Now my dear friends, one thing which I want to mention you, that these arteries enter inside your eyeball, right? These arteries, once again I am telling you that they enter the inside of your eyeball, so they are responsible to supply the internal structures of your eyeball, right? The external structures, for example, there is the conjunctiva, there are the eyelids, there are other glands present relating to your eyes, there are certain muscles, extraocular muscles present there. So all those are supplied by other arteries. So these arteries will enter inside your eye and they will supply the internal structures of your eye. So let's go into the detail. These arteries we will discuss, and we will give all those branches to your eyes. So let's start our lecture. So first, the internal carotid artery, we know that it bifurcates from the common carotid artery. It gives an external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. When internal carotid arteries go superiorly on both sides, they give off ophthalmic arteries, and these ophthalmic arteries will give other branches. So let me make a diagram here. Right. Okay. This is our optic disc, right? Like this. And then you know all the layers of your eye, you know well. Here is your cornea. Right, friends, this is our cornea. Then here is the vascular layer, the second layer of your eye. So all right, let's start the blood supply of the eye. So for example, my dear friends, here is our the arrival of our internal carotid artery. So look carefully. This is our internal carotid artery, right? And look carefully. This internal carotid artery will give a branch, and that branch, you know that branch is called your ophthalmic artery. So look carefully. This is your, you just consider it that this is your ophthalmic artery. Now look carefully. Let me make it a little bit straighter. This is our ophthalmic artery. Now look carefully. From your ophthalmic artery, one branch of artery separates, and this branch goes right. Look carefully. Here is your lamina cribrosa, which we should mention the weakest point of the sclera. So from your ophthalmic artery, let me name it ophthalmic artery. This is internal carotid artery. So from ophthalmic artery, there is a branch separating from your ophthalmic artery, and this branch goes like this, and it enters the eyeball, right? We say it pierces the sclera, right, and enters the back of your eyeball like this, right? We have in book this very beautiful diagram, right? And it enters through the lamina cribrosa and through the choroid, and it enters your inside of your eye, right? So this artery is called your central retinal artery. So what is this? This is central retinal artery, and this is the main artery, the most important artery of your eye. So first one, ophthalmic artery, then your central retinal artery. Now look carefully. Whenever central retinal artery enters your eye, right, through the optic disc, you know, while I was discussing about the structure of the retina, I had told you that if you are looking at the eyeball, right, and here is your nose, right, this is your left eye. So here is a central hole in your retina, right, and here is another yellowish area, right, inferior lateral yellowish area. This is called macula lutea, right, and this point is called the optic disc. You know, we have discussed it, right? And through this optic disc, you know, this central retinal artery comes out. So this is your central retinal artery. Now when the central retinal artery comes inside the eye, right, so it gives a superior branch and an inferior branch. So same will be the case here. It will give a superior branch or an upper branch and a lower branch like this, right? You are looking at the eyeball from here, so you will see this structure. So what will happen next? This superior and inferior branches will divide into superior temporal branch and superior nasal branch. Here is your nose, here is your temporal bone, right? So this is temporal branch and this is nasal branch. And then the same case will be here, the inferior nasal branch and the inferior temporal branch. So we cannot make that diagram here. This will give a nasal branch and a temporal branch, and this will also give a nasal branch and a temporal branch, so like this. And furthermore, they will give some very small and fine arteries, right, arterioles, and they are supplying each quadrant of your eyeball of your retina. Now what will happen? At the end they will join the veins, right? At the end they will join the venous capillaries, and they will come out, then we will see in the venous drainage of the eye. I will show all these veins also. So they will come out as a central retinal vein, right? So we are not concerned with that, we will discuss that later. So look carefully, this is your central retinal artery. Now what does this central retinal artery do? This central retinal artery is responsible to supply blood mostly to your retina. My dear friends, it's very important. Look, this is your central retinal artery. Now the central retinal artery will give branches towards your inner retina, towards inner retina. Look here, and I will enlarge this special point, and I will show you all these branches and their blood supply. What do they do? To which part of the retina this central retinal artery supplies blood? So that's so simple. Look, we will draw this diagram. We will take a small part of this and we will draw it here. Look, as you know, we have said that the retina is divided into two parts. How many parts? Two parts. It is outer retina and inner retina, right? And this was the, for example, this is the line between outer retina and inner retina. And you remember, my dear friends, we had discussed the layers of the retina. There were 10 layers of the retina. So look carefully. For example, this is here is your choroid, right? This is your choroidal layer. This choroid, right? This is outer retina and this is inner retina. Okay, what happened? We know that there is the emergence of your central retinal artery. Now this central retinal artery will give off branches, this branch and that branch, right? And this branch will do what? This branch will give capillaries towards your towards your inner retina. So these are those branches of the central retinal artery. These are the capillaries or the arterioles of that central retinal artery. So they are all there to supply blood to the inner parts of your retina, to the inner retina, right? So these are the capillaries of this central retinal artery. They are like this, right? Now what will they do? They will unite with the venous capillaries, right? As I told you there, they will unite with the venous capillaries, and they will come out and they will again unite like this, right? And they will be leaving your eye as central retinal vein in that direction, right? So we say that the inner retina, this is inner retina. The inner retina is supplied by what? It is supplied by central retinal vein, and remaining is outer retina. So what do we say? We say that the outer retina is supplied by other group of arteries. Those are the short posterior ciliary arteries. Short posterior ciliary arteries will supply blood to the outer retina that we will see right now. Okay, my dear friends. So this was the central retinal artery and its branches and its importance. It supplies blood to the inner parts of your retina. Done. Then there are next group of arteries, and these are called the short posterior ciliary arteries. Now what do they do? Look carefully. These are many arteries, right? We have said that there are many short posterior ciliary arteries. Now from the ophthalmic artery, right friends, from the ophthalmic artery, the short posterior ciliary arteries will branch off and they will enter your eye, right? This is your ophthalmic artery again, and they will pierce your sclera and they will enter your eye. Now what do they do? Look carefully. They will enter towards they will enter into the choroidal layer, right? This is your choroidal layer. Now what do? Whenever they enter your choroidal layer, they will move forward, right? They will move forward like this. So we say that they are short posterior ciliary arteries. Many branches, so 15 to 20 branches are there. So what do they do? Look carefully. Let's come here. We know the first layer of your retina was the retinal pigment epithelium. The first layer of retina was retinal pigment epithelium, right? Then there were the rods and cones cells, right? And then there were other group of cells. We know that well. So this is the structure of the simplified structure of retina. Now look carefully. For example, this is your short posterior ciliary artery, and this short posterior ciliary artery, when it enters the outer parts of your choroidal layer, right? This is short posterior ciliary artery. This short posterior ciliary artery will give capillary loops, right? It will give capillary loops. And these capillary loops are called the choriocapillaries. What are they called? They are called the choriocapillaries. Choriocapillaries, right? And what happens from these choriocapillaries, nutrients and other substances will diffuse towards the retinal pigment epithelium, right friends, like this. So we say that the outer part of the retina has no arteries and veins inside it, right? But the inner part of the retina has arteries and veins inside it, right? Arteries do come and they give capillaries there in the inner retina, but the outer retina itself has no arteries and no capillaries, right? But the capillaries are distributed into the choroidal layer, right? And from there the nutrients and other substances are diffused into the retinal pigment epithelium, and then towards the rods and cones, and then towards the other cells, right? So we say the outer retina is supplied by what? It is supplied by short posterior ciliary arteries, right? So like this, they give capillaries, the choriocapillaries, and from these choriocapillaries, what happens? The nutrients and other substances move towards your retina, and then what happens? All these choriocapillaries will unite with the venous capillaries, right? And they will again come out, and we will discuss these veins later, right? So what did we discuss? We discussed that the retinal blood supply, right? So retina receives its blood supply from two different group of arteries. The first one is central retinal artery. The central retinal artery will enter through the optic disc and will give a superior branch and an inferior branch, and this superior branch will give a superior nasal branch and superior temporal branch. So this is superior nasal branch, and this is superior temporal branch. This is inferior temporal branch, and this is inferior nasal branch, and they will distribute into the ocular fundus, and they will supply blood to the inner retina like this, right? And the outer parts of the retina, what did we say? We say that the outer part of the retina receives their blood from the small branches of the short posterior ciliary artery. Those are called the choriocapillaries, right? Choriocapillaries, and from here the nutrients and other substances will diffuse towards the retinal pigment epithelium and then towards the inner sides of the retina. So this was about the blood supply of your retina. Now the next lecture we will go and discuss about the other branches, which are called the long posterior ciliary artery and the anterior ciliary artery. So actually we will discuss about the blood supply of the choroid, ciliary body and iris, and then we will discuss about the venous drainage also. See you guys in the next lecture.